The date was sometime in July of 1968. I was a first lieutenant with the 577 Engineer Battalion in Vietnam. I'd been in Vietnam for about 6 weeks, and I got a call from the battalion commander to come meet with him. So I went to the battalion headquarters, and the lieutenant colonel called me into his office and said, "Lieutenant Buster, I have a mission for you. Our battalion has lost an important piece of equipment, a 5-ton dump truck, and your mission is to retrieve that dump truck because I'm in line for a promotion and I don't want losing that piece of equipment on my record. So let's discuss the details of this important mission for me." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "The dump truck is about 6 kilometers out a highway called 7 Bravo. As soon as he said that, I realized this was a dangerous mission. 7 Bravo was a site of frequent ambushes, mines. So believe me, he had my full attention at this point. He said, "Your mission will be to select whatever men and equipment that you need. You have the full battalion resources at your disposal here. And somewhere in the next week or so, your job is to go and bring that dump truck back to the battalion headquarters." So I spent a few more minutes in discussing the particulars, trying to get any other information I could about that particular highway. So as I headed back to my company, I asked for any sergeants of my 4 platoon sergeants. I was a platoon leader at the time with 4 platoon sergeants, and one of the sergeants volunteered, said, "Lieutenant Buster, I would be honored to serve on this mission with you." You don't know how that makes you feel when men step up in that kind of situation, knowing full well this was going to be a dangerous job. We also asked for volunteers from the platoon. I only needed about 8 men, and almost everyone was volunteering, so I let my sergeant pick out the men. And we needed 4 vehicles to do this mission. It would be my Jeep and my driver. We mounted an M60 machine gun with a machine gunner on my Jeep for some armament. I selected a armored personnel carrier, which had a 50 caliber machine gun, a serious weapon, a wrecker, and a low bed for transporting the disabled 5-ton dump truck, assuming that we could get it onto the low bed to bring it back. I did some research and found a Vietnamese convoy was going to be leaving. I had this meeting with my colonel on a Tuesday morning. I don't remember the date, but I do remember it was a Tuesday morning. And on Thursday morning, very early at 6 a.m., a Vietnamese convoy, much larger convoy than I was, would be heading out the Highway 7 Bravo. So my thinking was, if there are going to be any ambushes or mines, perhaps they can deal with that. They're much more prepared. They're much larger. So I coordinated with the leader. I was able to find the leader of that convoy. We exchanged information, and I wanted to attempt to monitor his progress or lack of it, and then follow him some time behind to see if I could get out to the area to retrieve the truck. So Thursday morning, we're in place waiting for the at the intersection of Highway QL1, which was the main, pretty safe north-south highway, and then 7 Bravo was the small road that headed due east. And sure enough, here came the convoy. They were a few minutes late. The other issue that I had to keep in mind was Highway 7 Bravo was not a high. It was called a highway. It was not a highway. It was a single-lane road, and it was a very dangerous area that you did not want to be caught in after dark. So I was unsure, of course, how long all of this was going to take. So getting this early start seemed to be giving me the best chance to accomplish this mission and still be back in a safer area by before darkness. So the Vietnamese convoy came by, headed out. Sure enough, they hit 2 mines. They did not have any casualties. Their vehicles were disabled, but they left those on the side of the road. And a few more minutes later, they got ambushed, but it was a small unit that evidently was ambushing them. The firefight only lasted about 30 seconds. They had a couple of casualties, so they had to stop, call in medevac helicopters, get the 2 wounded men airlifted back to medical treatment. And then the Vietnamese convoy was able to proceed. And with my 4-vehicle convoy, we headed out following this Vietnamese convoy. I will never, ever forget, as we drove through the area where the Vietnamese convoy had been ambushed, I could still smell the gunpowder from that firefight. It was a quiet day, very humid, no wind at all. And the feeling of, wow, I'm so happy that they were able to deal with it and we didn't have to. So we slowly made our way on out into the area that was a little more dangerous, but at least it was daylight. Another problem that existed, a real challenge here, was the fact that 7 Bravo was a single lane road for 2 or 3 kilometers, and then you would have a village, and then single lane with a rice paddy on one side, a canal on the other side. And if you met someone else coming the other way, one of the 2 of you would have to back up to the last village so that the other party could pass. I didn't meet anybody else as we headed out to the site where the dump truck was. As we pulled up, sure enough, there it was on its side in a rice paddy. The canal was on the other side, and the road 7 Bravo was only about 15 feet wide, and we set up with our wrecker. Another possible problem was that the dump truck was booby-trapped with anti-personnel mines. So my sergeant and a couple of the men went down very carefully looking for any visual signs of anti-personnel mines, which you may or may not be able to see, of course. They didn't see anything, so we hooked the wrecker up by cable to the dump truck. It was on its side. We all came back, got on the other side of our vehicles in case there was some kind of explosion. The wrecker operator pulled the dump truck up onto its right side up. There was no explosion, so we felt reasonably certain that there was no anti-personnel or any booby-trapping to be concerned with. So we set about to go ahead and winch by cable the dump truck up to where we could load it with the wrecker onto the low bed. So it was about halfway up the embankment, and then from coming westbound on Highway 7 Bravo was another Vietnamese convoy with a lieutenant colonel in charge of that. So he came up, got out of his Jeep, walked up to me and said, Lieutenant, of course I saluted him, you're going to have to undo what you're doing and let us pass. I attempted to convince him, let me at least get this dump truck loaded onto my low bed. He said, I can't wait. We have a very important mission we're trying to accomplish here. You're going to have to undo what you're doing, back up to the last village, and let me pass. Again, he was a lieutenant colonel. I'm a first lieutenant. I had to honor what he was asking me to do. So we unhooked everything. We backed up to, it was about a mile to the last village. This 25 or so vehicle convoy pass, and then we set about again heading back out to the dump truck. At least we didn't have to worry about anti-personnel booby trapping. It took us about an hour to get the dump truck up the embankment and loaded with the wrecker onto the low bed. By now it's about 2 in the afternoon, and I don't quite remember what time it got dark. All I knew was we were going to have to go very slowly and very carefully backwards to the see, my choice was to back the vehicles out to this side and then go forward coming back, or go forward and then back up once we were loaded. And my logic was, if I'm unable to get the vehicle loaded, then we'll just back up empty. We'll go out faster forward. And but since we were able to get the vehicle loaded, we had to very, very carefully back up for about a mile to the last village, where we could turn around and then everybody could head back. Our 4 vehicles could head back in a forward position. So as we backed up carefully to the last village on this single lane road, the low bed operator nearly got off and lost the vehicle. We were all just crossing our fingers and wondering, is it going to go off the side into the canal? He was able to pull back forward and come back again. And I can't tell you how excruciating that 1 mile, probably the longest mile I've ever experienced in my life. But we did make it back to the village. We were able to turn around. By now it was about 3:30, maybe 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Darkness was in my mind, but so far things seemed okay, that we were going to be back in the safer area before nightfall. And then as we were heading forward toward the next village, we heard sounds of a mortar attack. Well, you don't drive into a mortar attack. So I stopped. At the same time, from a distance, the tree line, we started receiving some incoming fire from small arms. I could see at times small puffs of smoke, but you couldn't really see any details. Our men, we all returned fire for a moment, got on the safe side of our vehicles, but we realized that was not really a threat to us. We just stayed on the safe side, away from the incoming fire on our vehicles. I'd been trained in officer school to call in artillery, so I was scrambling in my book to get ready to on my radio to get incoming artillery fire to attempt to quiet the mortar attack. And one of the most amazing times of my life, I looked up, and we called them bird dogs. It was a Piper Cub, a small one-person aircraft that in Vietnam was used for that very purpose, to call in artillery fire. And I don't know where the man was coming from. I just know there he was. He wiggled his wings toward me. He saw me. I saluted him. And he already had incoming fire called in within about a minute. I could hear the rounds going. I could see the explosions. The mortar attack stopped. And I'll never, ever forget the feeling of thank you. Thank you, thank you. So we decided it was probably safe to head forward again. We slowly made our way through the next village. We had another village to go. And once we got back to Highway QL1, which was a much safer highway, the sun was just going down, but we were safe. No one was injured, and we had the 5-ton dump truck secured and headed back to battalion headquarters. That night, as I took a shower and then headed to the officers' quarters, I have to tell you, I had high fives from all the other officers in the battalion, because they all realized, how dangerous this mission really was. And another side note, it was the night that I had my first beer ever. I started drinking beer in Vietnam, and it was a very, very special night. So I want to salute all the veterans today, the ones who survived, the ones who did not survive, and thank you.